Little did Cammie know that there was perks to the job. I should have paid you less because you were going to get therapy more. I should have done that. Okay, so here's where we are. We are actually going to dive into limiting belief now, which means we are going to come to the very edge of that pool and we are going to jump in the deep waters. Hashtag buckle up, buttercup. Hashtag did you bring a tissue? No, it's okay. It's really not that bad. Unless it is, and that's fine too. Everyone is going to have, at the end of tonight, you're going to have generally one of two responses to this. Some of you are going to walk out there feeling incredibly lighter. You will feel free tonight the minute that this lands and when you walk out that door. Then there's going to be some of you who through this exercise, you are going to feel like you opened up a can of worms. And you did. And that's okay too. And we want you to know that we are going to walk you through not only tonight in the most emotionally, heavenly connected way, but tomorrow as well, which is why I said, please come back tomorrow. Okay? So the powerful thing of what we're going to start to unpack now is this worked really well for me as a tool. Did anyone even have some ahas even in just that 5 minutes that you're like, oh my gosh, I should use this. And in theory, in and of itself, this works real time. So if you walk in a way that is rather aware, you can actually start to see yourself doing the thing. You'll feel the emotion of anger or sadness or anxiety or whatever it is come up and you'll go, oh, that's interesting. What am I thinking about right now? Just like what Cammie said. And you'll go, oh, I'm kind of leading into this idea that there's not enough resources or you're going to reject me, or like in a minute you go, I don't know that that's what I want. Is that the result that I want? Then you're going to go, well, this result's going to probably cause me to shut down and not have friends and not make money. No, I don't want that result. Okay, great. Then kick it. Resist the enemy and he will flee from you. There will be 50% of the time this works every single time. 50% of the time. Every time. And it will. You watch. You will literally, this helps even with my kids. I can be in a room with my kids, and that's 5 of them, by the way. So what I'm about to say, there's 5 in the room. Don't ever let your kids know that you have no idea what you're doing and that they're completely overtaking the room, is what I've learned. You just smile and go, they won't know if I don't tell them that I don't know what I'm doing. In a moment, I can all of a sudden feel my Hulk as a mom come out. I'm going to share my dirty laundry too, right? I'm not going to tell you to do something I'm not willing to do. So I have these patterns of kind of like Hulk. Why? Because anger, if I can be angry, I can control the room. So I linked anger with control. Anyone ever been there too? If I get angry, I can get the room to respond the way that I need to respond. So there's times that even with my kids now, I can actually sense the anger come up and I can say to myself, okay, I have emotions, I'm not my emotions. I used to literally think I was just an angry person, and so I would just leash havoc on the room. Why? Because that's just the way that I am. Well, not anymore. 1, according to the Bible, and then 2, according to this. Ooh, I feel angry. Why? Because I feel out of control. Fair. I have 5 kids. Okay, I feel out of control. So I can literally say, hey, everybody, mommy feels out of control. I feel out of control, and I feel disrespected, and it actually makes me feel anger. I feel anger in my body, and my kids will actually turn and they will look at me and they will stop what they're doing. And I'll say, I don't really actually want to be making decisions in anger. Do you want me to do that? Of course, they're going to say, no, I don't. Okay, great. Because actually the result I want is I want us to do this well, in excellence, because that's who we are. What did I do? I actually just went from the end result and I worked backwards to get a thought that was in alignment with my end result. You will do this 50% of the time. And it will work 50% of the time. And it did work for me 50% of the time. But how many of you know that 50% isn't really generally a good score in grade school? It's not really where you want to like start or end. So after running this thing out for a couple of years and realizing that yes, it was working, but only 50% of the time, I had to start leaning into the other 50%. It was those moments that it didn't matter how much I thought about this wheel, it wasn't working. And this will happen. This might even happen tonight when you go home or first thing in the morning and you're like, Julia, this is crap. This doesn't work. Great, that's what we're going to lean in. Because what I started to realize is that there is a difference between your thoughts and your beliefs. There is a difference between a thought that I have. And a thought that I have could be, oh, you might reject me, and no, I actually don't really care what you think, and move that on. Right? Oh, I may fail. but I might fly. Okay, great. So we'll move that away. Right? There's certain thoughts that I can actually have and I can shift out of the way. But the ones that settle in and they feel true, those are called beliefs, and that's what we're going to tackle tonight. Now, a belief, if you were to Google it, by definition, is an acceptance that a statement is true. Key word, the acceptance that something is true. It's basically surrendering to it. It doesn't actually mean that it is. It's my acceptance to it. It's my partnership with it. It also, if you kind of start to Google and research, and it's similar to memories, is how beliefs settle in our bodies, but they become our truth. It's a memory that I have that may or may not be true to you, but it's true to me. It's actually a way for me to compartmentalize my world. That's what a belief is. It's basically taking a thought and supercharging that thing and calling it true. From a scientific perspective, here's how this works. It's actually proven that every time I have a thought, it's almost like I'm creating a new path on my brain. The more I think the thought, the wider the path gets. Well, the wider the path gets, the easier it is to think the thought. Anyone ever been sledding? Nobody? Or are we just scared for what I'm going to ask next? So our family just moved from Florida to Bend. Everyone's like, is that on the opposite sides of the country? It is. We did that. So after our RV travels, we decided to settle in Sarasota, Florida, because we'd always wanted to live there. And we actually bought a farm because that was actually a dream of ours that I thought I wanted, but I didn't actually want. You know when you like the idea of something, but you don't want the something? Yeah, I did that too. So we wanted a farm. We'd always dreamed about a farm. Bought the farm, check. Moved off of the farm, check. So we were in the farm for 8 months. We renovated it. We bought 18 chickens, 3 cows, and 2 goats. And then we moved as fast as we possibly could to the other side of the country. So we've been in Bend, Oregon, and turns out it actually snows a lot there. So we took our sandals and our bathing suits, and after we protested the snow, we just surrendered. And so my kids decided we were gonna go sledding one day on like the biggest, fastest hill known to man. Okay, this is also when I was 3 months pregnant. So thank God I didn't get to participate, but I watched it. So the first time you go down this path, you're like scooching your butt. Has anyone ever been on like a new plowed snow hill? You look ridiculous. Like drop your ego out the door because everybody gets up and everybody feels good about it and everybody's ready to go and you get on your sled and you don't move. Do you know what I'm saying? And then everyone's like, all they do, do you know what I'm talking about? You got an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, 3, and we're like scooching butts. That's the idea of a thought. The first time I have it, I'm kind of like scooching my butt down I'm not really noticed here. That's interesting. That was rejection. That's interesting. If I put myself out there, they rejected me. That's weird. It's like we're scooching down the hill. But if I scooch down that hill enough, what happens? You die. Oh my gosh. You fly down that hill to the point that even Cindy and Mark came out to visit us, our dear friends, and their son, Andrew, who was like a little buddy back in the day, but is now old and grown up. He decides to go down that sledding hill and literally almost breaks his spine because he flies down the hill. Same thing with our thought patterns. Every time I think the thought, it gets a little bit wider and a little bit smoother. The more that I decide to go down that path, it gets a little bit wider and a little bit smoother until it is so fast that the brain actually decides, you know what? We've got so much going on. I'm going to create a shortcut in your brain here so it just becomes fact so you don't have to think about it anymore. So now what our brain does is, hey, every time you put yourself out there, you're going to get rejected. Let's just put that on autopilot so you don't actually have to actively think about it, and let's just call it truth. So what your brain does is creates all these little shortcuts. Why? So I don't have to consciously think about the thoughts I'm thinking all the time. Then what I do is I lock and load those things and they become my truth. And then I subconsciously put those away and I see it when, oh, there's not enough resources and oh, you rejected me again. And then I do all the things and I could keep coping because it hurts to feel it. So I'll drink another glass of wine, pop another pill, busy my time, and wonder why I'm not living the dream. This is a belief. It's basically a thought that's run its course on my brain over and over and over again. And not only has it run its course on my brain, it's run its course on my heart. Which is also why I actually start to put that narrative on God. So I take that thought, which is turned into a belief, and I put it at his feet trying to surrender it, but all I see is that lens. You know that idea of the rose-colored goggles? Same. So not only do I go, I'm not resourced, I actually now start to see God as a God who doesn't resource me. Not only do I start to go, well, I'm not good enough, I start to see a God who doesn't think I'm good enough. Not only do I say that I'm not noticed by people, I actually feel like I serve a God that doesn't notice me, which makes it really challenging to partner with what he's doing and to bring heaven to earth if I don't feel noticed by God or resourced by him. This is the power of our belief. So a belief in theory is one that I have had over and over and over and over again that I now call fact. Here's where we're going to take this even a level deeper. So here's how a belief is actually formed that creates that ski path in our brain. So first it starts with an experience in time. I want you to write this down, and we're going to put it up on your slides too. I have an experience. This is called the belief formation equation. I have an experience in time. And what you'll come to find out about an experience is that it's just an experience. It's like Cammie lives in Tillamook, Oregon, and it rains there a lot, and it's really gloomy. I would go to Tillamook and go, this is horrible. This is the worst thing in the world. Anyone else feel like that too? Like you could not live there? She loves it. She's like, this is great. She has a raincoat. She puts her dog on her backpack and rides in the rain on her motorcycle. She loves it. It's just rain. It means nothing. It's just rain. She calls it a good day. I call it a bad day. It's just rain. So really the experience has no weight behind it. It's just rain. It's not a bad day or good day except for the interpretation that I give it. Interpretation is everything. That's like when you have that conversation with your husband and you remember you leave that and you're feeling liberated. You're like, that was the best confrontation I've ever had. Anyone else love confrontation? Is that just me? Is that just me? Love it. Raise your hand if you love. This is all my challengers in the room. Go ahead, give me a hand. Yes, love it. We're like, I feel closer to you after that. Everyone else is like, dear God, can we not do that ever again? Okay, so you're having conversation and you think we're getting closer. I think this is awesome. We're like really having dialogue and talking about all the hard stuff, and he leaves and he's like, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing in the world. I never want to do that again. Same experience, totally different interpretation. How many of you have siblings? How many of you talk about your childhood and it's like you literally live different lives? You know, you're like, oh, I love Dad. He was the best. Your sibling's like, what are you talking about? You're like, he came to every game. You're like, no, he didn't. Dad literally came to no games. Yeah, he was like our cheerleader. You're like, not at my games. Are we talking about the same human? Same experience, completely different interpretation. Well, the power of interpretation is that what happens, because I'm human, is I'm going to interpret that that's interesting. Dad doesn't come to my games, or the rain makes me mad, or when I raise my hand, someone rejects me in class, or that's really interesting. And so what I do is I take that interpretation and I go, I wonder if this is true. It's called confirmation bias. Anyone heard of that before? It basically means I see whatever I want to see, not what's actually in front of me. For us moms, that's like when your kids are like, where's my socks? You're like, right in front of your face. I don't know a nice way to say that. It's like right there. Confirmation bias is basically, I will see whatever it is I want to see to confirm my interpretation to be true. That's like COVID. If we Google why vaccines will kill the world, what will we find? That. Equally so, if I actually Google why they will save the world, what will I find? That. And then I will actually find all these articles in my Amazon cart after I search that. You're like selling things you write in your life. Have you ever just Googled couch one time and all of a sudden you're like, they're selling you couches and everything that you do? Like you're in Walgreens and they're like, hey, you want a couch? You're like, oh my gosh, do they sell couches here? How do you know that? It's because you look for it and then what do you see? Couches everywhere. You're like, I meant to say coach, not couch. And now all I see is couches. I just wanted to hire a coach. I will see it. Why? Because I'm looking for it now. And not because I'm actually looking for truth. I'm looking for something to confirm me to be right. I want my interpretation to be right. Oh, see, I told you I can't trust you. I told you I'm not good enough. I told you that I will never add up to whatever it is that you want me to be. I told you. Now I'm confirming it to be true. Once I confirm it to be true, this is where the collateral damage happens. Because I actually will start to internalize it. What does that mean? It actually means that I will walk around going, ooh, I can't trust you. And ooh, I can't have what I want. And ooh, don't raise my hand because you're going to reject me. What now does that mean about me? I internalize it. I make it mean something about me, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not smart enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable. I actually internalize it and I make it mean something about me. Once I do that, I'm going to actually kind of shut down a little bit and I'm just going to create some habits and patterns and routines in my life to make that on autopilot so I don't really have to think about it again. And that's your final equation. Habits and patterns. And then I'm going to call it life. Then I'm going to call it, well, that's just the way that it is. And I'd like to propose to you today that it's actually not life, nor is it you or just the way that you are. It's actually your belief system. This is how our beliefs are formed. Now, the problem with this that doesn't mix well with science and the way that our brain is shaped is that actually 80% of your brain is shaped before the age of 8 years old, which means that part of your brain that's searching for answers, the A plus B equals C, right? Don't put your hand on the stove because it's hot. Don't cross the street without looking both ways because you could get hit. Don't raise your hand in school because people could reject you. Make sure you do things the perfect way so your dad will love you. All of those things that your brain's trying to do, it's actually 80 to 90% of your brain is formed before the age of 8, which means you and I today are living on beliefs that were built when we were 8 years old. And then we wonder why we can't dream heaven's dreams for our lives. Why? Because we're stuck in patterns. And then we have 20, 30, 40, 50 years of evidence to prove that pattern to be true. And then the enemy, what he does is he again continues to signal that that's just your voice, he makes you believe that that is just you, and it's just the way that it is, and it's just your upbringing, and it's just all of these things. So you get in the box of small-mindedness and scarcity, and you just hunker down and continue to live life. But remember, if this is the point of life, why are we doing this? So today we're here to actually identify what it is, and then we're here to break the back of it. But that means we're actually going to have to jump in the deep end, and we're going to have to open up a couple cans of worms, and we're going to have to lean in just a little bit. So I'm actually going to ask Stephanie if you would come up, if you don't mind playing for me a little bit. We're going to dim the lights just a little bit as well. And the reason that we're going to do this is because we actually want you to lean into the quiet place. And we want you to lean into this place, and we actually want you to be brave, and we want you to start to unpack what this means for you, because ultimately this is the thing that's going to stop you from dreaming heaven's dreams for your life. That just answered the question for some of you, like, why are we doing this tonight? And what does this have to do with dreaming? And what does this have to do with freedom? And you kept telling me about your aim and where we're going. Well, oftentimes, some of us, the reason that we can't get clear on that dream, or we can't quite get there, or we always feel like there's that gap. Has anyone ever been there? The gap between where you are and where you want to be, and there's that gap. Or you keep hitting that ceiling. Some of us will even make the money, but then we lose the money. Or we make friends, but we don't really keep friends. Or we start the business, but we can't sustain the business. All of those things is a byproduct of this limiting belief, and you will land on this tonight. We are also going to encourage that you actually don't leave tonight until you have your limiting belief. So though some of you are going to want to walk out that door and go, I don't really know, or I don't really have one, please don't leave. Because tomorrow will also build on this. And believe me when I say that the enemy doesn't want you to understand this, because when you do, when you forget the former ways and you no longer dwell on the past, guess who will see the new thing that he's been doing all along? So let me remind you that, again, we are doing this for freedom from freedom. That's why we're going to lean in and do this tonight. So I'm going to ask you to lean in, and I'm going to ask you to be brave and to look at some of the things that maybe you know all too well, but we're going to put some words around it, and maybe it's something that you've been running from for quite some time. Tonight's the night. And I'm actually going to walk you through an exercise that has completely changed my life, but it's also caused a lot of breaking moments. And I will say again, if you don't break, you will never heal. So this is one of those things that tonight, if it feels like you're breaking, it's okay. And I will say that in my own life, I've had many different chapters to where I had to look at this at even deeper levels. And it was ultimately the thing that would have stopped me from doing what I'm doing today. So I am a byproduct of this work. I know what it feels like to be sitting where you're sitting. I know the pain. I know what it feels like to open up these cans of worms, but I also know what it feels like to live free. And I stand before you today free. So you're going to have to trust me as I walk you through this. And you're going to have to trust the next day. And then I'm going to teach you how to trust yourself and how to trust God to walk this out from now until eternity. And we're going to practice this. We're going to rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. But this is how we're going to lean in. Okay, so what I want you to do, using the belief formation equation and all of these things, when I say that part of this that makes this a little bit ironic and challenging is that most of these beliefs that we have were built at a very young age, I'm going to ask you to actually go back to your first memory that you have before the age of 8. And this is actually going to be a memory that doesn't really necessarily serve you, because it's going to be one that I'm asking you to recall a negative memory. It's your first memory that you can remember not feeling safe. You can remember not feeling in control. It might even be something really silly, something super simple. I've actually worked with a client who said that her first negative memory was playing on the playground with friends, and someone happened just to say, "You have a squeaky voice." Didn't seem like much until 30 years later, she had no voice. I've also worked with people who have actually experienced sexual abuse from dad, uncle, and grandpa for the first 10 years. And we would look at that and go, that's traumatic, and it is. But when I sat with both women, both were traumatic. Because it shook the safety, security, stability points in their life, and it ripped out the rug from underneath them. So this tonight isn't about how traumatic, it's about how real your first memory was. And the reason that this is important is just in my analogy of when we go down that hill and we're kind of scooching, it's not necessarily sometimes a memory that all of a sudden the world flipped on its side, which for me it did, and I'll share mine. But it planted a seed that went, I wonder if, that's why we want to go to the first memory, because there's not a lot of bias. We have bias today. Remember, he's got proof and he's got proof and she's got proof to prove some of their negative thoughts to be true. But this first initial memory won't have any bias because it's your first one. So I'm going to ask that you go to your very first memory, and some of you are going to get stuck in the ballpark of 10 to 15 years old, and that's okay too. Go there, and then ask the Holy Spirit to take you further. Have him take you back even further, and just sit there for a minute. This is important, and you're going to need to trust me on that. I'm going to walk you through mine, and then we're going to give you a couple of minutes to walk through your own. For me, I remember my first memory was when I was 5, and I was actually playing Barbies with my dad. I can remember exactly where I was sitting. I remember where he was sitting, and I remember being in the most, it felt like at that point for me, heaven on earth, because I loved being with my dad. And I was playing Barbies with my dad, and I remember not having a care in the world, feeling like I was just in the zone. And I don't know actually how long I was playing Barbies, but I do remember my parents asking me to come in the other room. And I remember them sitting me down on a couch, and I remember them saying, "This isn't about you, this is about us." And they said, "Mommy and Daddy are going to get a divorce." And the rug ripped out from underneath me. And in a moment, I can remember my guard just going up. I can feel it today. I literally felt like I instantly felt played. I felt like the world caught me off guard. I felt like they were lied to me. I felt like they totally manipulated me. And in that moment, I made a vow that I will never trust you again, and I will never play again. And it created something on the inside of me that day that says, I don't know if I can trust you, but maybe it's not about you I can trust. Maybe I can't trust me. And in that moment, I created a limiting belief that says, I'm a fraud, because it really was about me. I must have done something wrong, and when you find out, you're going to reject me. So I put on the mask, and for the next 15 years of my life, I did all the right things, and I said all the right things, and it served me. I got straight A's. I had my clothes laid out every night before I went to bed. I didn't ruffle feathers. I knew every Bible verse. I could quote them. I was the straight A, picture-perfect kid that everybody wanted to have. But little did the world know that I was doing it in fear. I was doing it because I had a rug pulled out from underneath me, so the only thing I knew how to do was to control the world around me, and I did. So in fact, I picked up control as my shield. Remember when I said that you're not a controller, you learn to control? That's what I did, and it served me. Get good grades, you won't be rejected. Say the right things, you won't be rejected. Make sure everything is in order, and you can just make sure that you never are disappointed again. Until that narrative didn't serve me anymore, because remember, what I was running away from was the fact that I wasn't as good as anyone thought I was, and when that were to happen, they're gonna reject me. I was running so hard away from my fear that I finally gave into it. And at 18 years old, I moved to Los Angeles, and I lost myself. Because it was so hard proving that to be false that I finally said, watch how bad I really am. And I sabotaged my life for 2 years. You would not have recognized me. I completely lost myself to a world that most of us, we probably don't even need to go there, but you get the point. Why? Because it was just easier to be bad than to pretend like I wasn't. Then I spent the next 10 years healing and breaking, and healing and breaking, and healing and breaking, and healing and breaking. And it wasn't until I landed on this limiting belief that it was like this heavens opened up again, and I realized that actually what God had intended for good, the enemy manipulated to try to stop me from the purposes that were ordained from the very beginning of time. And that's going to be the hope in the exercise tonight, is that your greatest place of pain will be your greatest place of purpose. But we're going to have to do a little bit of digging, and we're going to have to identify what it was that the enemy was lying to you about at day 1, that he's continuing to lie to you at day 399, that needs to stop. So what I'm going to ask you to do is that you actually sit, maybe you want to rearrange in the room, that's fine too. We're actually going to give you about 5-6 minutes to walk through this equation. And what I want you to do is I actually want you to go to your earliest memory, and I want you to ask yourself, what was the interpretation that I gave it? Remember, an experience is just an experience. And for some of you, you're going to go, well, it's not that big of a deal. For others of you, it's going to bring you to your knees. And both are okay. But what I want you to ask is, what did you make that mean? Then I want you to ask, what did you make it mean about you? And I want you to write down, ultimately, a statement. So for me, again, my interpretation was that I'm going to get played. I need to control the world. I did something wrong. You keep saying I didn't, but I surely had to have. Like, that must have been me, right? That's where you start to go, okay, well, what I made that mean about me is I did something wrong, and ultimately, you're going to reject me. We're going to reject this whole thing if we do something wrong. That's what I made it mean. So take your experience, take it to the feet of God, and play this out. What did you make it mean? What did you make it mean about the world? What did you make it mean about people? What did you make it mean about God? And what did you make it mean about you? We'll give you about 5 to 6 minutes.
Hey there, dreamer. I just wanted to take a second and to say thank you. I wanted to thank you for your yes and your boldness to not only get started, but to stay the course. I recognize firsthand that dreaming can sometimes be an overwhelming and oftentimes lonely process. And so I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge you and to say thank you, because if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, that the world needs your dreams. I also want to invite you to join our community, to actually engage with us, to continue this conversation. And you're going to see a QR code on your screen, and that is the best place to get started, where we will make sure that you get connected to a community who is also committed to unlocking the dreams that are on the inside of them, to breaking the limits that keep them bound, and are doing their part in bringing heaven to earth. So you no longer have to do this alone. We look forward to being a part of this journey with you. We thank you for your yes, and we cannot wait to see what God does in and through your life.